company dedicated to enhancing leaders' ability to harness and optimize trust as a strategic business asset. Got a great topic for us to talk about today. One that I think will be super intriguing to lots of people out there. It's about motivation. And the idea that, I was once told by a leader that I don't know if I can motivate people, but I certainly can put blocks and demotivate them. And so I think today's conversation is actually intriguing because there is some evidence out there that shows, in fact, from the Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends Report. Here's a statistic that I want to share with you. Employees of high trust companies are 180% more motivated.
Well, that's a strong claim with big numbers.
Yeah, for sure. 180% more motivated. Let's unpack that. There's a lot to it, but that's a pretty significant claim to say high trust companies. We got to figure out how to do this.
Yeah, and they're saying high trust, and that's okay. We talk about optimizing trust, so I think we add to that conversation through the concept of optimization and the reality that trust can be good or bad in a particular situation, context, and for different people. And so you can overtrust. And so we can bring that into the conversation. But yeah, high trust, optimizing trust. And
I love that you always bring us back to that optimizing. I think that's incredibly important because as you and I've talked about before, I've seen where companies really focus on that trust. And they focus so much on that they're not willing then to have difficult conversations because they think they're going to break the trust. And so I think there is a tendency sometimes to overtrust. And so I'd love that you continue to bring us back to that word of optimizing trust. So let's think about that in a high optimized trust organization, 100%, 180% more motivated. What does that mean? Is it they're more motivated to do their job, more motivated to advance the mission? What's your thought here?
The way I'm interpreting that statistic, that quote of a statistic is employees. So it's about the employees themselves. So they're measuring something about the employees and their feeling, their psychological state of trust. And so they could be having trust in their company. So that's what's in their mind, their company. Or they could be having just the aggregated trust amongst themselves of all stakeholders or all employees of the organization. So the more trust there is what they're saying, then the more motivated the employees are to do what. And so it doesn't say here, but it really probably is saying to the mission, to the vision, to the goals.
Wow.
That's how I would read that.
Yeah.
Motivation is reason for behavior.
Yeah. So I can see this a little bit in terms of the work that I do and the recognition that, various departments have different subcultures within the organization, and some are more trusting than others. And in those high trust groups or trust optimized in those groups, I do see where they spend a lot of time focused on sort of the upper level of what are we trying to achieve together. So that would be more of like the mission of the organization, or at least the mission of the department. And less about who gets credit, or can I have this tough conversation, or I'm afraid to bring up this breakthrough idea because someone's going to be upset that we always have done it this way. So I can see where there's high motivation to go after a bigger goal in those types of situations. Is that what we're referencing here in terms of?
I think so. Yeah, it's this openness, right? An openness to be creative, but it's about vulnerability, right? This openness to willful vulnerability. That's trust. So we're open to each other as coworkers, as equals, as subordinates, as bosses. There's an openness, and rather than a closedness to our relationship. And so the first thing to our mind is not protect, and caution, but is how can I be a part of the advancement of the mission? How can we, there's a lot of we language, second person, we and us and our language that comes into play when you feel trust, when not just you, but all those around you on your team, in your organization are also feeling high levels or optimized levels of trust.
Yeah. I think you can see this from the outside too. You can see how high trusting groups operate. And and the camaraderie and the fun. I think the energy is so much higher. And yeah, I would sort of like, going through a maze. It's like, when you're going through a maze and every time you're hitting a dead end or you can't get in that door, it's frustrating. Or maybe the door hits you on the way out. Distrusting environments, that is draining. So it makes sense that in high trust organizations or high trust departments or even groups, that we're seeing the motivation to drive towards something bigger. And isn't that what we're all after as human beings, is really thinking about how do we contribute to something bigger? And that's completely motivating.
It absolutely is. That's one of the high level motivators for all individuals, is to be part of something bigger and better than ourselves, that we can feel like we have a purpose.
Yeah.
So organizations come in all, styles and shapes and sizes, but as an organization's trust moves from more distrust to lower trust to higher trust, moves in that direction, then there's more mission alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And leaders should take note of that to foster optimizing trust is going to give you more leverage, authority, if those are things you care about.
Mm-hmm.
Those are useful in the right hands. But if it's towards the mission, if it's to the mission, then it gives you more ability and influence, particularly to engage with your employees and all stakeholders in the organization to get people moving in the same direction. So what do you think? Do you have any examples from your world of organizations that relate to this?
Yeah, I think I could very clearly see this, particularly, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening in the industry that I work in, which is primarily pharmaceuticals and biotech. And when those mergers are happening, you can see, like I said, from the outside very clearly, when there's a high trust environment that believes in the mission, they're moving and shaking and doing things and willing to change, open to vulnerability, open to feedback, open to breakthrough ideas that they hadn't thought about before. But when on the other side, you can also see the intrepidation of some individuals when they're walking into unknowing, what is this acquisition? Who is the company I'm working for now? Who are the people? I don't trust that they have my best interest in mind. And so I'm going to walk very gingerly, and I'm probably going to be a little less vulnerable and open to new ideas as I move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, that makes all the sense in the world. That's a great example. Yeah, we invite our listeners who are joining us and our viewers to engage with this conversation. It's a meaningful conversation. If you're a leader, and you are, figure out how to leverage the optimization of trust in your organization towards the organizational mission, and you'll be glad that you did. Thanks for joining us.